So lately I've been thinking a lot about, the hustle culture that is very prominent on the internet. You hear all sorts of creators, entrepreneurs, everybody talking about hustling, productivity, optimization, locking in, make more money, work harder, build more. And I'm all for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with working hard, learning new skills, and trying to become better, and even making more money. Hey, who could complain about making more money? There's nothing wrong with any of those things. If anything, part of successful living entails all that. Persistence, diligent, being disciplined, pushing past your comfort zones. And who doesn't want more money? Making more money leads to a better life. That's just the reality. More money, more comfort, less stress. Building and growing yourself and alongside whatever organization or project that you are working on, whether it's you run a business or you work for a job or you're a manager or a creative type or whatever it is that you do, working harder is always great. A person that is persistent and keeps moving forward no matter what, is a person determined to succeed. And I think that's great. I think it's good to push ourselves past our limits in life. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow. But I think something that falls along the wayside is that other end of the spectrum. Rest, reflection, and recreation. It's something that oftentimes doesn't get talked about. You hear no days off. You hear, oh, you should be working. Don't waste any time. You only have 24 hours in the day. And some of that can be helpful if you need kind of like a pick-me-up. However, I think it's also important to sometimes slow down. You need to rest. Whether, first off, sleeping. You're not going to perform as well if you don't get enough sleep. Anybody can relate to that if you've went to work after a night of tossing and turning in bed, or you go to school and you just feel like a zombie the next day. You can't think straight. Your body feels weak. You're just going through the motions, just praying, just looking at the clock, waited, for your time to go home. If you don't rest, your body and your mind are not going to operate to their full potential. If you're constantly just working and grinding with no rest whatsoever, you're eventually going to get to a point where you burn out. And when you get to that point of burnout, your body and mind is going to pull that lever for you and say, hey, you need to slow down. We need a break. We can't handle this. I've been through that. I've been through those cycles of constant working, optimizing, doing better, doing more, trying to make more money. And you keep pushing. And eventually, something's going to happen. Something's going to come in, something like a boulder's going to come in your way, and you're going to fucking run full speed into it. It happened to me. I broke my foot a couple months back, and it kind of sidelined me. I was unable to work. It kind of just slowed my whole life down. I'm a very physical person. I'm the type that likes to get a lot of things done, constantly moving, constantly growing, constantly wanting to, move mountains. When I broke my foot, I was forced to slow down for the first time in my life. You know, it's very humbling when you're a person that, you know, likes to move around a lot and you're hopping on crutches, you know, around the house. You can barely move a couple feet without hopping around on crutches. And if you've ever had the misfortune of using crutches, you know it sucks. You know it's not fun. You know eventually your arms and shoulders and back will get tired from, you know, putting all that weight on it, and it's just miserable. I was depressed as hell, man. I felt worthless because I had to sit and lay in bed with my foot up, and I hated it. I hated it so much because I'm the type of person that once I get going, like I want to, you know, clean the house or organize or do something or oh, go through bills or whatever it is, or learn new skills or something. And for the first time in my life, I was forced to slow down. For the first couple of weeks, I hated it. You know, I was scrolling through Netflix, you know, playing video games. I wasn't even enjoying myself. I wasn't even enjoying the opportunity to kind of rest for the first time in my life. I was so stuck in my head that it wasn't doing me any good. And I fell into a deep pit of depression. But over time, from not being as physical, for the first time it allowed me to kind of sit with my thoughts. And I started reflecting about my life. I started reflecting about everything that was happening up to that point when I broke my foot, my mindset, who I thought I was, what direction I was putting my life in, and allowed me to take a step back from things and finally slow down my mind. And it was a strange blessing that happened after I broke my foot. I, for the first time, was able to kind of sit with my thoughts and kind of learn more about myself. And it was very uncomfortable at first. But a weird shift in my perspective began to happen. And it started to change me. And those depressive, anxious feelings started to go away. And they were replaced with this kind of semblance of peace for the first time in my life. And I started to kind of enjoy it. And I started to try to make the most of the situation of, you know, not being able to be that physical. You know, I'd hop online. I started taking courses online. You know, and little by little, I started reading more. I would mess around with little projects here and there for fun. You know, I'd organize the house, I'd clean, you know, to the best of my ability with, you know, can't really do much when you're hopping around, but I would, you know, get a rag, a dish rag and the spray bottle and spray down the table for a minute as I'm on crutches, of course, still trying to do something. But it felt good. Eventually, it went from depressing and anxiety feeling and feeling full of stress to, okay, I'm in this situation. I could sit here and cry about the fact that I can't move very well, or I could make the most of it. And I started making the most of it. You know, I started to look at my time as, you know, more valuable. For the first time, I had open time. And it allowed me for more recreation. I didn't feel the pressures of work or timelines or deadlines for the first time in my life. And with that, there was like a freedom. full days just opened up. Something I haven't had in a very long time, considering I've been working since I'm 19 years old, with only short breaks in between. And it was nice. There's a semblance of peace. I got to look inward on myself and really acknowledge, like, what do I want out of life? What's important to me? And who do I want to become? And those answers started coming to me. And I started coming up with better ideas. And my creativity came back. Along with a whole lot of other skills that I was shocked to have. The major change in my life that happened. I started being more grateful for things. I started to appreciate things that I had. Eventually my foot started to heal up and I began to get off those crutches and take off that horrible foot boot. There was still some healing to be done, but I could walk around again. And once I could walk around again, it felt so good to be able to walk around again after weeks of, going about with crutches. Couldn't even go outside. I was finally able to go take a walk outside. Still had to heal my foot, and I was still limping a little bit, but just the sensation of being able to walk outside and feel the sun on your skin again was amazing after being put on the sidelines. You really don't know what you have until it's gone. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that it's important to take some time for rest, reflection, and recreation. That if you're feeling stuck in life, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or too stressed out, that one of the best things that you can do is to just stop for a little bit. Granted, sometimes we don't have that luxury. I get it. Bills need to get paid. You got to go to work. Sometimes it's not the best timing to take a vacation. But if you can find any semblance of free time, whether it's you got a day off from work, or even a half hour of your day, your lunch break, make the most out of that rest time. Not saying, try to, be productive on your rest time, but take that rest. Rest up, reflect, breathe a little bit. Remind yourself why you're doing this. Enjoy it. Enjoy the freedom of being able to just sit for a second and not do anything. Find a park bench and grab a sandwich and just sit there and just take it all in. Remind yourself of the beauty of life. It's not as bad as we make it out to be. We're constantly so overworked and stressed out and overwhelmed that when you're going, you can forget all that. You can forget about all of the things in your life that are going really well. That you have good health, that you're able to walk, that you're able to breathe, that you're able to have some semblance of a good life. That you're even able to work. There's a lot of people out there that they can't work through physical disabilities, or they're struggling to find a job, whatever it is. So if you even have a job, that's one great thing. Not every job is great. Sometimes it's not our ideal job. It's not the perfect job that we want, and maybe we don't like it, but you're still out there doing something at the end of the day, you're still making some money. Even if it's not a whole lot of money, you're doing something with your time. You're doing something that requires effort at the end of the day. And that's not nothing. Listen, if you like this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. We got more videos coming out. Share it with somebody that's got to hear this message. We got more videos coming out. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about or how you think I can improve with these videos. I'm new to this whole, YouTube filming thing, so I'm open to suggestions. Best of luck out there. Remember to rest up, reflect, and take some time for recreation. Peace.